Hey everyone, before we continue with the module, I just wanted to check that you've prepared a sector analysis for your site. If you have no idea of what a sector analysis is, you should go back and check out some of the earlier modules. Jessica, I know, has spoken about it, and Crystal as well. And this is a representation of what a sector analysis can look like. So you have a base map, and then over the top you represent the predominant approaches for uncontrollable elements coming onto your site. So this is wind, rain, sunshine. It could be, you might also want to map visually on here if there's a high water level, so if water rises in very wet seasons. Are you near a flood zone? This site is on a hill, so luckily not vulnerable to flooding. And represent this on here. And so it should be about uncontrollable forces, both the natural elements, including pests. It might be deer. In Australia, it's kangaroo. Other people have wild boar come in and attack their chickens. So what are the sectors, the kind of the non-human sectors, the human sectors for your site? And you can also list them if you're unable to visually represent them. So kind of limiting factors around ownership, rules and regulations can also be something you want to include in your sector analysis. And it might also be sector analysis further afield from your site. So at a regional level, this might be pollution from a nearby industrial site. Or somehow you might want to represent how the water comes into your property. So where it enters predominantly down with the slope and where the lowest point is and where the water will leave. But if you've got upstream there's potential pollution, you might also want to represent that to, say, paper plant over here. So obviously, depending on your particular site, your sector analysis will be different. The sector analysis that I do at the Leisenhof garden, so biodynamic market garden, is very different to the sector analysis which I do in this 65 square meter apartment in Austria, where we have the sector analysis of footsteps above us, footsteps below, and in winter, the money-saving sector of the neighbours who heat their apartment too much and the heat rises up to heat us. We also have here a southwest-facing window, which in winter and spring is amazing, but on the hottest days in summer, this is our biggest threat because it makes the flat almost unbearable to live in. And so we have to put up shading to protect ourselves from the sun in summer. Sector analysis. I really love sector analysis. Other people don't go off and write a master's dissertation based on sector analysis, so you don't have to be as enthusiastic as I am about it. But a couple more things that you want to include in there. So you're looking at your extremes, your solar paths, the extreme temperatures, the maximum rainfall which has happened in a year, maximum rainfall per month, and then also what is the maximum rainfall which has occurred in a day. We're dealing with changing climate, and the historical data we have might not adequately represent the future that we need to design our sites for. This here I love. This is called a windrose, and it's a graphical representation of where the dominant winds come from and how much of the wind is over a certain certain speed. So here, this is coming from the west. The westerly wind, which for this site is in southern Western Australia, the wind is coming off the Indian Ocean, and often it's a very, very strong wind. Whereas we can look here and see that the wind coming from the northeast is usually not so strong because it's got a smaller extreme point here. And you can get windrose data from meteorological departments for particular times of the day. This is only recording for 9 AM, but you can see this throughout a calendar clock and also per month, because this is an annual report, whereas the wind patterns in this part of the world change really radically from summer to winter. So a windrose. Yeah. Anyway, as I say, I really love sector analysis. I think it is not the most important aspect of permaculture design, because as I've mentioned before, everything is connected and it's a whole systems thinking. But it is, from my perspective, a fairly critical aspect of working out how you can keep your site protected, and is a guideline for different aspects of your different subsections of your site will have different sectors. So a shade might be a sector. The little old lady who looks out of her window might be the spy sector. And that might only affect a particular part of your garden. But it's a way that you can identify areas which you need to shield from, say, strong winds. You might want to put a windbreak off against your strongest wind sector, or where you want to put particular fire kind of retardant plants if you've got a particularly strong fire sector. And also to remind you that as you go through this module, I make recommendations as much as I can in a limited amount of time, but to recognize that the intensity of shielding and protection that you're going to give for components of your design are going to be stronger in Zone 1. You want to put more emphasis on supporting and protecting Zone 0 and Zone 1 from elements like wind and heavy rains and strong sun than you want to do in Zone 4, where it's a much more of a hands-off approach. You might go for longer-term biological support, such as windbreaks and fire-retardant trees, whereas the intensity of attention that you put on these elements is going to be stronger to the zones closer to the main core of the property. Yeah. Anyway, sectors, zones. I love all of it. But yeah, if you haven't got a sector analysis done, I recommend that you at least sketch out an initial layer for it before you begin the rest of this module. I'll see you on later. You can send me an email. I'm linked below, and I'm also available within the Permaculture Women's Guild PDC forum. So I look forward to hearing your feedback, and maybe you can show me your sector analysis in the forum. Bye.